Sometimes we wake in the morning with a heaviness on our chest, and whether that's due to the endless to-do lists that are going through our thoughts, or the nagging regrets from yesterday, or the evening news that we decided to watch just before we went to bed. Sometimes we wake in the morning and we just don't seem to want to face what's in front of us, the world as it is. I had a morning recently where I woke up to my favorite cup of coffee and the New York Times and was frankly pretty frightened of the news. And then, as grace often works, it was only hours later that I read a quote by the philosopher Blaise Pascal, who wrote, "In difficult times, carry something beautiful in your heart." In difficult times, carry something beautiful in your heart. And so I decided that day that this would be the message that I wanted to bring you today. I want to begin my message with a reading from the novel by Tim O'Brien called The Things They Carried, which is about soldiers in Vietnam, the war of my generation. This is from the opening of his book. First Lieutenant Johnny Cross carried letters from a girl named Martha, a junior at Mount Sebastian College in New Jersey. They were not love letters, but Lieutenant Cross was hoping, so he kept them folded in plastic at the bottom of his rucksack. He would sometimes taste the envelope flaps, knowing that her tongue had been there. At dusk, he would carefully return the letters to his rucksack, then slowly move among his men, checking the perimeter. At full dark, he would return to his hole and watch the night and wonder if Martha was a virgin. The things they carried were largely determined by necessity. P38 can openers, pocket knives, heat tabs, wristwatches, dog tags, mosquito repellent, chewing gum, candy, cigarettes, salt tablets, packets of Kool-Aid, lighters, matches, sewing kits, military payment certificates, sea rations, and 2 or 3 canteens of water. What they carried was partly a function of rank, partly of field specialty. As first lieutenant and platoon leader, Jimmy Cross carried a compass, maps, code books, binoculars, a .45 caliber pistol that weighed 2.9 pounds, fully loaded. He carried a strobe light and the responsibility for the lives of his men. As an RTO, Mitchell Sanders carried the PRC 25 radio, 26 pounds, with its battery. As a medic, Rat Kiley carried a canvas satchel filled with morphine and plasma and malaria tablets and surgical tape and comic books and all the things a medic must carry, including M&Ms for especially bad wounds, for a total weight of nearly 18 pounds. As a big man, and therefore the machine gunner, Harry Dobbins carried the M60, which weighed 23 pounds unloaded, but which was almost always loaded. In addition, the 10 to 15 pounds of ammunition draped in belts across his chest and shoulders. As PFCs or Spec 4s, most of them were common grunts and carried the standard M16 gas-operated assault rifle. The weapon weighed 15 pounds loaded with its full 20-round magazine. And depending on numerous factors, the men carried anywhere from 12 to 20 magazines, plus rods, steel brushes, swabs, and tubes of LSA oil to maintain the rifles. In addition, they carried whatever presented itself. Lee Strank carried a slingshot, his weapon of last resort. They carried all they could bear and then some, including a silent awe for the terrible power of the things they carried. On night missions, they often carried peculiar little odds and ends. Kiowa always took his New Testament and a pair of moccasins for silent walking. Dave Jenkins carried night sight vitamins high in carotene. Rat Riley carried brandy and M&M candy. Henry Dobbins carried his girlfriend's pantyhose wrapped around his neck as a comforter. They all carried ghosts. In difficult times, carry something beautiful. When my son Russ was a toddler, we would often walk in the park together a couple of times a week. And on the way, he would load up his Oshkosh jean pockets with all these little treasures that he would find on the way. Rocks, whether they were glittery or smooth or just interesting, bird feathers, pretty or interesting leaves, anything he found along the way, sometimes gum wrappers. He had a particular passion for gum wrappers for some reason. And then when he got home, he would sort through them all. And when his father got home in the evening, he would bring them all out and show his dad as a way of sharing with him all of his adventures from the day. And then we would sort through them again, and he would take the things that he wanted to keep, and we'd put them in a shoebox on his bookshelf in his bedroom. And he would sort through them every once in a while. But I found that it was the things that he picked up were not so much things that he wanted to keep as things that he wanted to share as a way of describing what his day had been like. What he did keep with him, though, until he left for kindergarten, was a handmade quilt from his bed that had a particular corner that had to be on his cheek whenever the world became too much for him. We are healed by the things we carry. We are healed by beauty. We are protected by beauty. We are protected and held safe by the things that we carry. We are taught by things of beauty. The things my son carried did not always seem beautiful to me, and in fact, his quilt was often dirty and smelly. And I began to learn in those days that I had a pretty narrow view of what is beautiful. Most of the things that Tim O'Brien's soldiers carried, I didn't consider to be beautiful. And when I first read his book, I read those words and I felt incredibly weighted down with all that they had to carry with them, because they were all necessary. And it took me a while to understand, as I continued reading his book, that when those items were needed on the battlefield, They held a particular beauty for the people that needed them. What did you carry as a child? What made you feel that the world would be a safe place? What was beautiful for you? What is beautiful for you now that you want to carry in your heart to help you through those difficult times? How do we define beauty? As I said, I've often had a pretty narrow view of what holds beauty. And so beauty for me can become kind of a cliche. I read recently a book called Crispin Sartwell, she wrote a book called 6 Names of Beauty that describes the term from 6 different cultural perspectives, each definition flavored by what that culture holds to be special and beautiful. So I want to share that with you this morning as a way of kind of broadening our perspective of what we find to be beautiful as we think about what it means to hold the beautiful in our hearts. The English word beautiful, Sartwell writes, is defined as an object of longing. An object of longing. And in particular, she says, our culture emphasizes losses that linger and the fact that losses can intensify our sense of beauty, things that are impermanent or things that are just beyond our reach tend to be thought of as beautiful in this culture. So a young woman is considered to be beautiful in part because that beauty is fleeting, or a sunrise or a sunset is thought to be beautiful because it's there and then immediately gone. On the other hand, there's a Hebrew term for beauty, yafa, which means to glow or to bloom. So energized color is thought to be beautiful in the Hebrew tradition. Something that bursts into our view is called yafa. So we may be going through an environment that we're taking for granted, and all of a sudden we see a bright flower or a bird or a butterfly, and all of a sudden our attention is captured. Or fireworks on the 4th of July, those would all be considered yafa, something that arouses our senses and is considered beautiful. In Sanskrit, there's a word sundara, which means holiness, and links the idea of beauty with the divine encounter. God loves more than anything else the beauty that results from diversity and abundance of life. So each of the animals in the animal school, for instance, because it has its own unique beauty given by God, is considered to be beautiful. The idea that worship and the experience of earthly beauty is actually the same thing is very strong in this culture. And then there's a Greek phrase called to kolon, which is used to describe the ideal. That's another understanding of beauty. So beauty as the perfection of a thing, the notion of integrity, the search for truth, the love of order and unity and of justice. These are all part of the classic definition of beauty. A scientific theory or a mathematical formula which brings elegance to our existence is to kolon. And then there's the Japanese term wabi-sabi, which I find really fascinating. That captures another quality of beauty. Wabi is most directly translated as poverty, and it originally referred to things that one might find in a peasant's home, like tools that are worn and cracked. The wabi energy means that there's a flaw in something that intensifies the beauty of an object. The patina on a piece of metal has wabi energy. And then sabi translates as loneliness or spareness. So the Japanese flower arrangements that use just a few stems with just as much emphasis on a particular branch or a leaf as the flower has sabi energy. Wabi-sabi then is an aesthetic of imperfection and of simplicity and humility. The broken earthenware cup in contrast to the Ming vase. A branch of autumn leaves in contrast to a dozen roses. The contours of a wrinkled face in contrast to a young model. I love this concept. As an almost 70-year-old person, I've started, when I was reading this, I thought, I'm just gonna start thinking of these wrinkles as patina on my face. The Navajo word for hozo, I think that's how it's pronounced, hozo, refers to health and harmony. Of all the various words we have touched, hozo is the most comprehensive view of beauty, which refers to the state of human beings in relationship to the objects around them. So a world that is flourishing, that is healthy, that is good, that is happy, that is content, is hozo. In tradition Navajo culture, the art of creating something that is beautiful, that is of benefit to one's community, is central to their concept of hozo. So beauty has many different names, many different interpretations, and the point is not to nail it down, but to expand our view of it. Each of these definitions has something to offer, and each has a cross-cultural truth to it, that as human beings, we are deeply connected to our environments and to one another in the most extraordinary ways. So in difficult times, carry something beautiful in your heart. I think too often, at least for me, my senses are aroused by the suffering that I see around me. And attention to beauty is a necessary balance to that. Attending to what holds beauty for us is not escapist. It's a resource for maintaining and renewing a commitment to life. Being grateful for the beauty around us, whatever form it takes. Expanding our awareness of it to include all of the definitions I've just listed is an act of resistance to the ugliness that is also part of our everyday lives. But beauty calls us forward to ever greater fullness of presence, just like maintaining an awareness of the suffering in the world. These are indeed difficult times for many people. They require courage and commitment and hope and self-love. And all of these are sustained by beauty. We find the courage to fight after falling in love with a beautiful vision that we're willing to fight for. We maintain our commitment only by finding the beauty that nourishes us. We hold on to hope because experience of beauty reminds us that something in the universe is on our side. We withstand dehumanizing actions when we are rooted in the beauty of our own uniqueness and dignity. It's one of the most important secrets to successful social change and our social survival, that when we carry beauty, it also carries us. This past week, my friend and colleague, who I think has been here to preach maybe once or twice, the Reverend Lisa Garcia Sampson, she's the director of the Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministries of North Carolina. She gave me this small shell from a Carolina beach that she recently visited. And I decided when she gave it to me that I was going to carry it with me this week as a reminder of our friendship and as a reminder of the growing network of our congregations across the state that are committed to doing the work of justice and of working toward a world where all people flourish. It's a tangible symbol to me of our passion to make this a safer and more equitable world. And that is the beauty that I'm going to carry with me this week. I want to encourage all of you, this is an invitation to you this week, to literally find something, even if it's a shiny gum wrapper, find something that is beautiful to you using any of the definitions that we talked about this morning. Something to carry in your pocket or in your wallet or around your neck as a necklace. Something that you find to be beautiful or reminds you of something beautiful. The goal being that you be reminded about the beauty that will carry you as you carry this thing of beauty with you this week. May it be so, and blessed be.